Choosing Life by ginnyrules27, Chapter 19. Mal shook her head in amusement as Ben, Chip, and Chip's husband Lucas carried boxes into the room they had designated to be the twins' nursery. Ben, of course, had insisted he could do it on his own, but then Chip had heard about it. How that had happened, Mal honestly had no idea, though she had let it slip to Mrs. Potts a few days ago that they were going to be setting up the nursery that weekend. But she hadn't thought Mrs. Chips would tell Chip or Lucas. "Oh, right, that is the last of it," Chip said with a small chuckle. "Good thing we showed up to help, huh, Benji? You'd still be working on this if we hadn't." "I could have helped, you know," Mal said. Ben shook his head. "No way, Mal. I'm not risking it." "Ben, nothing's going to happen if I carry a box. I could have carried the diapers up here." Lucas leaned over to Chip and whispered in his ear, "Should we give them some privacy?" "Nah, Benji's always like this," Chip whispered back, though I'm sure the threat of Mal miscarrying is weighing just as heavily on Ben's mind as it is on mine. "Why do you think I insisted we use one of our free weekends to help out?" "Of course I would have done it anyway, but I know you just finished on a project and wanted to relax this weekend." His thoughts were interrupted by a gentle kiss on the cheek. "Hey, relax, teacup, okay? I know what you're thinking, and don't. I'm more than happy to help out." "Honestly, I was just surprised that Amir and Akio went with you two," Mal said, drawing the two men's attention to her. "Don't they have kids of their own on the way?" Chip asked. "Bet you anything they're setting up their own nurseries, or Akio is at the very least. Didn't you say Elle's due date was like a month away from yours, Mal?" "Less than, actually," Mal said. "The twins are supposed to come on May 30th, and Elle said her guppy's supposed to become on June 15th. "Guppy?" "Sorry," Mal chuckled and shook her head. "Uma's been calling her kid a guppy as a pet name, and it rubbed off." Ben chuckled before wiping some sweat off his brow before it could drip into his eyes. "Good thing we waited to set this up after we found out the gender of our kids. Imagine if we'd set it up and then the kids were born." Mal shook her head. "Blame me, I guess. I'm the one who jinxed it after all, wondering what we'd like with twins." "I think you and I have a very different opinion of jinxed, Your Highness," Ben said as he went over and wrapped Mal up in his arms. "I think you meant to say you blessed us." "And I think you might be a bit biased there, Your Majesty," Mal chuckled softly. Ben nuzzled his nose into Mal's hair, breathing in the faint scent of her shampoo, which reminded him of the familiar scent of strawberries. "And what did I say about you using my title? You don't ever have to do that." "Hey, you called me Your Highness. Turnabout's fair play, Benny." "You heard the pregnant woman, Benji, and you know the rules. No arguing with her," Chip said before tossing Ben a paintbrush. "Now, are we painting before or after we get the crib set up?" "Before, I think," Ben said. What did Mum and Dad do when Mum was pregnant with Abby?" Chip sighed. "Nothing, unfortunately. Belle, your mum was only 6 months pregnant when she lost the pregnancy. However, I remember what they did for you." "What was that?" Mal asked, happy to steer the subject to lighter matters. It wasn't that she didn't want to talk about her lost sister-in-law, but whenever Ben thought about Abby, he got overly protective of Mal and of the pups. "Well, Adam got everything set up for the nursery, only to find out that he forgot to paint the walls," Chip chuckled, as he shook his head at the memory. "Guess who got roped in to paint the lower areas while he got the higher portions?" "Oh, yeah, I've seen the pictures of your handiwork," Lucas said, deftly taking the paintbrush out of Chip's hands. "Leave the painting to the artists. Okay, teacup. I'm only agreeing because I know Ben's going to ask me to make sure Mal doesn't do any painting to avoid breathing in the paint fumes." Mal shook her head. "I could wear a mask, you know." "Why risk it?" Ben asked as he grabbed one of the paintbrushes. "Ben Florian, you are probably the most protective person I've ever met."
Really? So you've never met your parents, or brother, or cousins, or grandmother, for that matter?
I said person, not god or godling, Ben chuckled.
Tell you what, I'll save a section for you to spray paint after the fireflies are born, okay? You know the genders, you know the names you'll be using, and you're still referring to the twins by your pet name for them?
Chip asked as he gently steered Mal toward a rocker that was stationed at the far end of the room. Or at least tried to steer, but Mal was nothing if not stubborn. Yes, he knew he'd likely have to get her to leave once the paint lids were opened, but until he saw that, no reason for her to leave. Honestly, this is ridiculous, Mal shook her head. I'm sure in the years since Auradon was founded, you all found a way to make paint that a pregnant woman can use. You know what? I'm going to... And I just remembered I can't go on Gracebook to ask.
Why not? Lucas asked. We haven't informed the kingdoms yet.
Ben informed him.
It's been on our to-do list, but we want to wait until we knew the genders of our kids. And Mal, why not just go on Bibbity or Orabing to see for yourself?
Mal paused and flushed slightly, as she'd forgotten that was an option. Somehow her brain had remembered about Gracebook, but had forgotten about the mother of all knowledge and the two top search engines that ruled Oratube. Pulling out her phone, she typed a quick search into Bibbity's search bar, chuckling slightly at the colourful images that the letters made up for that day, before shaking her head and willing herself to focus. Aha!
You found something?
You bet your book collection I did. Listen to this, oh so overly protective one. It's highly unlikely that painting or being around paint fumes while you're pregnant will harm your unborn baby, as the risk from the most modern household paints is very low. The risk to harm your baby may be slightly greater from the solvent-based paints and old paintwork, which may contain traces of lead. And I'm sure this room has been painted in the last 20 years or so that your parents were living in here.
Ben shook his head. You know, most pregnant women would probably be lounging during their final months of pregnancy and wanting their husbands to wait on them hand and foot.
Yes, but most pregnant women would probably don't have an overprotective husband who thinks their pregnant wife does paperwork she'll be exerting herself, Mal teased, with a smile to show Ben that she was only joking. Come on, Ben, the babies will be fine. But I will be willing to compromise and agree to not set the mobile up Hattie gave me.
Deal, Ben said instantly.
Then give me a paintbrush and we can knock this out in no time, Mal said as she grabbed one of the paintbrushes. I'll just say this though, I am not doing any of the trim or baseboards.
Why not? You're just the right height for that, Chip teased his sister-in-law.
Mal exhaled before shaking her head. Because, Chip, I can't bend down to reach the baseboards, and kneeling will just mean I never get up off the ground again. Ergo, either Ben or Lucas will do the baseboards.
You know, it might just be quicker to make this a two-man operation, Lucas said. Teacup, why don't you and Queen Mal start picking out the books that will go into the book castle?
First of all, Lucas, you don't have to use my title. Al shook her head. And yeah, it's a book castle. Blame the bookworm I married.
Having enough books is important,
Ben said as he began pouring the paint into the trays. Mal couldn't help but smile as she saw the light purple that almost looked like the same colour as her dress she wore at Ben's coronation, and a light blue that acted as a companion colour. They had vetoed going too dark with the colours, since they didn't want the nursery to feel like a cave. If the kids wanted that when they grow up, they'd be able to change it. The only thing that wouldn't be able to be changed was the bookcase that had been built into the wall. Yeah, Ben had been a bit busy that day that Mal had been up on Olympus with her cousins and brother. He'd somehow gotten a contractor to come in and gotten a bookcase ensconced in the wall. Furthermore, it had been made in the silhouette of a castle, as if to ensure as many books as possible could fit in the shelves. Ben, you are your mother's son. Mal thought with a fond smile as Chip started to bring over the boxes of the children's books that their parents had given them over the months, since they had told the select few in the know.
"Why do you have 5 copies of The Cat in the Hat?" Chip asked.
Because Gil gave us a copy, and then Macari gave us a copy because Gil had recommended it to her when she was pregnant with Gwen and Marcos, and then Macari sent us 2 more copies because Gwen and Marcos wanted to send a present of their own.
And the 5th copy?
Well, Mal chuckled and shook her head. Ben and I were on the phone with her talking about the multiple copies when a package came from her. We opened it, and I think we all burst out laughing when we realised what it was.
Chip shook his head. Well, you really only need 1 copy for now. How about we put 1 on the bookshelf and you can do whatever you want with the others? Just as long as you don't damage them. Ben gets very upset when you do that.
Oh, I've been introduced to his guilt eyes, Mal said. I accidentally knocked one of his bajillion books off his nightstand and may have bent one of the corners in one of the pages.
Oh no, you dog-eared the page? Chip said and burst out laughing. Yeah, that would definitely get Benji's puppy eyes of disapproval. I wonder if they're still as bad as they were when he was a toddler.
Ooh, toddler stories about Ben? Tell! Mal grinned and chuckled as she heard Ben groan, though she could tell it was just in jest. She and Chip worked on getting the book castle stocked with as many books on the shelves as it could possibly hold. Let it not be said that the Crown Prince and Crown Princess were not readers, or that the High King and High Queen did not encourage them to be readers. And with that, I think we finally have all the books that this book castle can fit, Mal said as she squeezed one last book as best she could. How are you doing over there, Benny?
All done, Ben said as he started to put away the paints.
But you didn't do this wall.
I told you, Mal. I'll leave 1 wall blank for you to spray paint after the kids are born. And I intend to keep any and all promises I make to my wife, thank you very much.
Mal smiled and shook her head as she walked over and gave Ben a gentle kiss on the cheek. How'd I get so lucky to have a husband like you?
You gave me a cookie, I think, Ben teased. A cookie that was ridiculously delicious, I might add.
Oh, that's right, Mal said. How could I have forgotten about that?
No flirting when we're in the room, please, Chip called. As great as it is to know that Benji still has a functioning love life, I, as his brother, would like to not be in the room to witness in the event that a pregnancy hormone starts making a sudden turn, shall we say.
You mean you don't want to witness us in the throes of passion?
Mal asked, looking over her shoulder to smirk at Chip. You would be correct, Mal. I would very much like to not witness my little brother and his wife in the throes of passion.
Chip said, nodding his head. It's almost as if you can read my mind. Don't be silly, Chip. You're not an Olympian, Mal chuckled, then grunted slightly as one of the babies kicked. Yeah, I think the pups are getting a bit tired of that joke. Oh, that reminds me. I need to find out where Mum got the book of dad jokes she gave Dad after Hattie was born.
Mal, as much as I love getting books, why?
Not for you. Mal snorted slightly at the quizzical look on Ben's face. It's for Harry.
You've heard his jokes before Uma got pregnant. Do you really want to give him more ammo? Ben asked. The man raises a good point. Chip nodded. Lucas shook his head. Honestly, I doubt his jokes are as bad as you're making them out to be.
Thank you, Mal said, giving Lucas a big smile. I knew you were my favourite brother-in-law for a reason.
And here I thought it was because I snuck you art supplies when you didn't want to go out shopping for a new sketchbook, Lucas said with a chuckle.
Oh, that too, Mal nodded.
Chip, though, paused. Wait, you mean I'm not your favourite?
Chip, don't you have 4 brothers and a sister whose spouses you can be the favourite brother-in-law for?
Yeah, but you honestly mean I'm not your favourite? Ben shook his head in amusement. It's times like this where I honestly have to wonder how you're 32 years old. Because I'm 9 years older than you, Benji.
Chip chuckled. As I have said many a time, growing old is mandatory. Growing up is optional. Between you and me, we'll have our fair share of sayings in this castle. Mal snorted. I swear his kid's first sentence is going to be, being normal is vastly overrated.
At least it'll be better than Akio making sure his kid's first word is guards, Ben said, shaking his head. And yes, Chip, I've already started the interview process for more guards, and no, Mal, they don't know our family's expanding. I'd just like to be prepared is all.
Any guards you like so far? Chip asked as they made their way out of the nursery for a lunch break. The mobile would be sent up afterwards, once the paints had a chance to dry.
Cameron Bubbles, Ben said. He's got a good, strong resume, and apparently he's applied to be one of my guards. But whoever he interviewed with in the past found his father's connection with the social services.
Was that person Queen She-Devil? Mal asked.
You know, now that you mention it, it might have been Leah. Ben nodded. And is that a new nickname for her?
It is. Do you like it?
I like anything you come up with, Mal. You know that.
Chip snorted. So have you offered Bubbles the job?
I mean, he's got the strongest resume, but I'm not exactly okay with his reluctance to accept days off.
He's hired! Chip! Don't care, Benji! And you know Amir and Akio will insist on it too. Hire him! Ben chuckled and shook his head.
Okay. I'll hire him.
Good, Chip nodded. Now let's get us some lunch. I, for one, am famished. Lucas shook his head. No way you could be more famished than the pregnant woman, Teacup. Watch me, Chip said as he kissed Lucas on the cheek. Mal couldn't help but smile as Ben did the same for her before the four of them made their way to the kitchen. It was honestly amazing how real everything was beginning to feel. Yes, it was real the moment she discovered she was pregnant. But now, with the nursery set up, it just felt more real. If only there was a way they could delay telling the kingdom. Because telling the kingdom would mean dealing with the press. And that was one thing Mal was not fond of doing, pregnant or not. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. I really loved that one, Ginny. That was a lovely chapter. Why am I not surprised Ben got a bookshelf castle put into the wall the day Mal's not there? Why does that make so much sense to me? And also, I love that saying that Amir and Chip have, that growing old is mandatory and growing up is optional. I live by that creed. I'm in my 20s and I have a tiara collection, for crying out loud. Ah! Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another chapter. Bye.